Hello again. I've remarked before that I'm not all that enthusiastic about knocking down all our power stations and replacing them by windmills. I feel instinctively that the idea is a bit loopy. However, perhaps I'm wrong. Let's stop for a moment and think in a little detail about what is being done. Maybe it would be better to generate the electricity we use by means of wind and burning wood rather than coal. Okay, just for a second, let's consider the physical structure of the wind turbines that we see all over the place these days. They're being built with the idea that it will give us free electricity from natural forces and an end to filling the atmosphere with carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels. I think I've spotted a flaw in the scheme, but I'm very prepared to be proved wrong about this. Let me just outline some of my reasoning and see if anybody can see where I might be going wrong. How do we build a wind turbine? Well, to start off with, we need about 2,500 tonnes of concrete, 900 tonnes of steel and 65 tonnes of plastic for every single one of those turbines that we see. Concrete is made partly from cement, and roughly for a strong structure you need about a 1:4 ratio of cement to ballast. I'm sure most viewers would have mixed concrete at some stage in their lives. Okay, we make cement from heating up limestone to very high temperatures. Of that 2,500 tonnes of concrete, roughly 500 tonnes of cement will be needed if we're going to use a 1:4 ratio of cement to ballast. By the way, do check up on the figures I'm using here, because these are really rough back of the envelope calculations and they may be quite wrong, so don't take my word for it. But I give a link from a technical site regarding making cement from limestone. It tells us that producing 1 tonne of cement will produce 1¼ tonnes of carbon dioxide, which is then released into the atmosphere. So the concrete used in one turbine will mean adding 625 tonnes of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Then there's the 900 tonnes of steel, most of which is in the blades that we see turning in the wind. Making 1 tonne of steel entails releasing 1.85 tonnes of carbon dioxide into the air. You need to burn a lot of coal to heat up the iron ore and so on in making steel. That's another 1,665 tonnes of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from making the steel just for one turbine. Then too, all that concrete and steel will have to be brought to the site from all over the world. We import about 2 million tonnes of cement each year. Think of the exhaust fumes from all that construction and transport and the boats and lorries taking it all to the site, but we'll disregard that for the moment. What does this mean in practical terms? I give a link in the description to this video of the Hornsey 1 offshore wind farm, which opened last year off the Yorkshire coast. It consists of 174 wind turbines. It's the world's largest wind farm, and according to the publicity material, the electricity produced is enough to power over 1 million homes with clean energy. Well, to provide the concrete and steel, which comprises the main part of that wind farm, it was necessary to generate roughly, according to my calculations, 398,460 tonnes of carbon dioxide and chuck it into the atmosphere. That's, give or take a bit, we can call that 400,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide. Then too, there's over 11,000 tonnes of plastic in that wind farm. I wonder if viewers have ever asked themselves what will happen in 20 years when those turbines at sea wear out. 20 years, by the way, is the average life of a wind turbine. I suppose we'll have to generate another 400,000 tonnes of CO2 and produce another 11,000 tonnes of plastic to replace the existing wind turbines. What do you think will happen to the old wind turbines? Well, the turbine blades are absolutely no use. They are simply dumped in landfill sites after the sawn up and chucked in a landfill site. The concrete's useless, and so it'll just be left to disfigure the environment. There's no earthly use for broken concrete, particularly not millions and millions of tonnes of it. Since there are currently 11,000 wind turbines in the country, this means, as far as I can see, that in 20 years there will be something like 10 million tonnes of old metal blades to be buried somewhere. Don't even get me started on the Drax power station in Yorkshire. At one time we used to dig up dead plants in the form of coal and burn that in power stations. The Drax power station now burns trees. This means that every year 25 million trees are cut down and simply burned in that power station. This, by the way, produces more carbon dioxide than it would if they were burning coal. It makes all the fuss that Boris Johnson was making about deforestation in Glasgow the other day look a bit odd. Luckily, though, the trees are from remote areas in an unspoiled parts of Estonia and Latvia, so they're well out of the way from this country. This is what our clean, green, renewable electricity means in real terms. We are destroying beautiful forests in the Baltic, chopping them down so that we can burn the trees here. To build the wind turbines, we are importing millions of tonnes of cement made from hideous limestone quarries in India, which cause dreadful pollution locally. In other words, instead of having our own mines and chopping down our own forests, we're doing it in other parts of the world, where middle-class Guardian readers in this country who are such eco-zealots cannot actually see what is going on. Some people might find that massively hypocritical. And the bottom line is that our electricity bills are about to be raised to pay for all this logging activity in Northern Europe and open-cast mining in India. When petrol and diesel cars are banned in a few years and we will all have to drive electric vehicles, this process of trashing the environment in other people's countries will have to be expanded on an enormous scale. This is, of course, one of the many fields in which I'm not an expert, I freely admit it, but I would have thought that generating electricity by digging up dead plants from millions of years ago to burn would be kinder to the environment than cutting down 25 million trees a year in beautiful ancient woodlands in Estonia and bringing them to this country and burning them. But hey, what do I know? I'm sure that somebody will be able to point out the errors in my reasoning. As usual, I give links to all this in the description to this video.